Welcome back to Opinion Journal. I'm Mary Kissel. Believe it or not, the New York City mayor's race is not all about Anthony Weiner. We've had another very big twist here in the Big Apple, a focus on race. Here's what Bill Thompson's campaign, one of the candidates who's not Anthony Weiner, had to say about one of his competitors, and I quote, Bill de Blasio is tying himself up in knots trying to tell people the only African American in the race for mayor wants to have it both ways on racial profiling. He should stop lying about Mr. Thompson's record. I've got New York Post editorial writer Robert George here. Robert, that's a reference to Stop, Question, and Frisk. Focus on race. Where did this come from?
Well, this came from the collapse of the Anthony Weiner campaign. He had been either leading or in second place. That's collapsed. And so now you've got Bill Thompson, the former city comptroller, and Bill de Blasio, the current public advocate. They're now fighting for the number 2 slot behind Speaker Chris Quinn. And it's likely in New York, if no candidate gets 40% in the primary, you go to a runoff. So they're fighting for number 2 to get into that slot. And it has come down to race. Billy Thompson surprisingly isn't dominating amongst African Americans as people had expected.
He's an African American.
He's an African American. Bill de Blasio, whose wife is black, has interracial children. He's doing quite well there, and Chris Quinn is getting some as well. And Weiner actually is still getting a good support among African Americans. So they are now focusing on the racial question. And Billy Thompson, has been relatively moderate on racial issues in the past, came out with some rather inflammatory words last weekend.
Lightly.
Yeah, he compared the Stop, Question, and Frisk to the racial profiling of Trayvon Martin, and that was it was outrageous.
Was this though an inevitable turn in the race, given that these candidates don't seem to have any new ideas on the economy, that they have to turn to the race card to drum up votes?
Yeah, I would look at it even a little bit wider. I mean, most of them are very much similar on the basic issues, as you said. I mean, not a whole lot of new ideas there. So they all have to carve out different appeals to interest groups. Chris Quinn is openly gay, so she seems to be pretty much got the gay vote kind of locked up. But she's also, because of the Weiner collapse, is now trying to make herself even more, get more votes from women. And now de Blasio and Thompson seem to be wanting to fight over the African American vote.
Do you have to get that vote to win?
It's about 30-35% of the primary. So it's very significant. It could be the kingmaker. Yes.
I want to put one of the polls, most recent polls up. I think it's from Quinnipiac,
right.
To show the numbers here. So Chris Quinn, 27%. You're right, de Blasio and Thompson in a dead heat. Anthony Weiner, 16%. But Robert, if Mr. Weiner drops out, I want to have a look at what would happen then. Let's put those numbers up on the screen. And we've got Quinn, 30%, still a dead heat for de Blasio and Thompson. So where do those Weiner votes go?
As I said, Weiner, partly because of his bravado and so forth, had gotten a rather good sizable amount of the black vote. So that's sort of going to be going. I think splitting basically between de Blasio, who is basically the most solidly down the line liberal in the race. So he's going to get a strong amount of it, and then the rest of it is sort of probably going to be split by the remaining candidates. You've got but you've got about 2 or 3 also-rans, incling John Liu, the current city comptroller,
sort of
in there too.
Corruption-ridden comptroller.
That is quite correct.
We have less than a minute left. New York has had its problems with race in the past. Is it good for New York, really, to have this kind of race card played anytime in the campaign? But this is still relatively
It's
early.
not, and it's interesting. You know, a certain friend, Al Sharpton, has waited. A lot of people are looking for his endorsement, and he's basically said he's kind of torn between the two bills, Thompson and de Blasio. So that's another one to look at. That could also send a major signal and be the deciding call here.
In the meantime, we're going to stay on Weiner Watch. New York Post editorial writer.
There you go again.
Robert George, thank you so much for being on the show.